Another notational thing that I want to talk about before going any further is a different way of breaking down the class definition so that you can specify the outward interface in one place and the implementation of each function in another. This is a little bit clunkier looking, I think, so I actually don't like the look of it, but it's necessary and we're going to need it in this course because there are cases where we need to define some class that is used in a library somewhere. So multiple parts of the program will all be using the same class that we define. We want to make sure each part of the program can incorporate information about that class, but we don't want to duplicate the actual definitions of all the functions. And so we end up with this. We might write the class definition where instead of actually providing a definition of each member function, I just provide a prototype. Just a declaration of the function. And so what this forms, if you're using the rectangle class, if you want to write a program that uses rectangle, all you need is this information. You want to know the name of the type, which constructors exist, the member functions that you have, any static members that might exist, and the private data. The compiler has to know what private data exists. But this is enough from the point of view of an outside user for them to use the rectangle type. And we need occasionally to break it down this way, to separate out the definitions of the member functions from the actual description of the class itself. So the natural question is, wait a minute, then where are the definitions of the member functions? Well, if you define the class this way, you can put the member function definition somewhere else. So commonly, we would put the class definition into a, we might put this into a .h file, so into a library header, .hpp. So we might put in our library header this stuff, which is enough for somebody to use the rectangle class. The actual definitions of each of the functions might be put in a source file. .cpp. So I put all my functions somewhere else. I put them in one place. When you want to define, give the definition of a class member function outside of the actual curly brackets for the class, you have to use this. So you do the same thing you would do otherwise. The member function is otherwise perfectly normal as a member function. It's just that whenever you define anything that goes inside of a class, you have to put rectangle : to indicate that this constructor you're defining is the one, it matches up with this declaration, the one inside the rectangle class. The key thing to understand, though, is no matter where I put it, whether I put it inside the class or outside with this notation, its behavior is the same. This is just a different way of untangling all the different pieces. And we can see for member functions, I write double, I write the return type, but the name of the function is now rectangle : get width, to indicate this is the get width function that goes inside of the rectangle class. And there's that static function, rectangle : create unit square. But otherwise, everything works exactly the same. So I'll try compiling and running this just to prove that. All right, so there we are. So nothing really that scary about this. We will flip back and forth between the two types of notation during this course when we have to. I generally do prefer the notation where I put everything inside the class description, although broadly speaking, that's less common. It turns out that although it is still pretty convenient in a lot of cases, because we often write objects that are used in multiple parts of our program, we do have to use this notation a lot.